"You're not coming to the wedding," Isabel wrote coldly. "Camila's family doesn't want you there." I smiled and replied, "So you choose status over blood." And then I canceled everything, including the deposit for the wedding venue. They had no idea what was coming. "You're not coming to the wedding?" Isabel repeated via message. "Camila's family doesn't want you there." That was it. "No, I'm sorry. No, I hope you understand." Just cold white letters on a gray bubble. I read it twice, then again. My thumb hovered over the screen while the coffee beside me grew cold. "So you choose status over blood." I sent it. No emojis. No sarcasm. Just truth. Without blinking, I opened my laptop, logged into the wedding planner account, and canceled the deposit. It was in my name. Paid with my card. They didn't even know that. Good riddance, no refunds. I closed the laptop, leaned back in my chair, and simply stared at the wall. I didn't feel anger, not even sadness. Just stillness, as if something inside me had shifted and was now looking from a different corner. They had done it before, not so blatantly, not in all caps. But I felt it in the sidelong glances, the jokes during dinners, how they forgot my birthday 3 years in a row and blamed the WhatsApp group algorithm, how Camila became the daughter they always wanted while I was just Alejandro. Always helpful. Always quiet. I helped choose the dress boutique, negotiated the first contract for the caterer, found the tourist apartment for the guests coming from out of town. When Mateo's parents said the rural house in Asturias was too rustic, I found a luxury version with lake views. I even designed the Save the Date website. They used my Canva account. They still had access. But now I was a burden because Camila's father didn't like the energy I brought. Because I wore black to a brunch. Because I asked where the 3,000 euros from the caterer had gone and didn't drop the subject when Isabel said, "Trust us." They always needed me until they didn't. And now they were planning their perfect family portrait without me. Filtered smiles. Edited joy. No Alejandro. Just the ones who matter. I took a deep breath and opened our shared folder, Camila and Mateo Wedding Organization. I scrolled through the photos, the contracts, the vendor schedules. And then I deleted every single file I had uploaded. All 63. The folder was renamed Good Luck Without Me. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't warn them. Let them find out for themselves the morning they try to confirm the florist. Let them panic when the photographer doesn't show up. Let them wonder what happened when the venue emails them. Unfortunately, this reservation has been canceled by the account holder. They thought I would stay quiet, that I would smile, that I would swallow my pride as always. But this wasn't about a wedding. This was the final crack in something that had been rotting for years. This was them handing me the scissors and expecting me not to cut the rope. They wanted me to disappear. Wish granted. Only they didn't know I was taking everything with me when I left. And that was just the beginning. If you asked them, I was always the dramatic one, the one who overreacted, the one who overthought everything. But let me tell you how I became that guy. Let's travel back 6 months. It was a Friday night. Camila called me, crying. Mateo had just been fired. The apartment they were renting downtown was 3 months overdue. They tried to negotiate with the landlord, but he wanted the money, all of it, or he would file the eviction lawsuit on Monday. I didn't even hesitate. I transferred 3,800 euros from my savings and told her to call if she needed anything else. It was the 3rd time that year I had bailed them out. The first was when Fernando accidentally overwithdrew from his retirement fund and needed 5,000 euros to avoid penalties. The second was when Isabel forgot the tourist apartment for Camila's bachelorette party was in my name and let the girls trash the place. I kept spreadsheets. I kept screenshots. Not because I thought I'd use them someday, but because I needed to prove to myself I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't imagining how my money, time, and energy were bleeding into a family that acted as if I was their silent donor. But it wasn't just the money. It was how they treated me after I helped. Like a servant. Like a backstage technician. Fernando once joked, while I was fixing his gutters in a storm, that I should look for work as a housekeeper because clearly I wasn't man enough to be the breadwinner. Everyone laughed, even Camila. When I mentioned it later, Isabel told me I was too sensitive, that he was just old school. Old school? That man once locked me out of the house because I came home from high school wearing eyeliner. But yes, maybe I was too sensitive. When Camila got engaged, she told me via video call. Isabel and Fernando were literally sitting behind her on the couch, clapping. They helped her plan the proposal with Mateo, even went with him to choose the ring. And I found out through a screen. I should have seen the pattern, but a part of me still thought, if I help enough, maybe they'll finally treat me like I matter. I paid for the engagement photoshoot, €600. I built the wedding website. I designed the personalized invitations. I paid the venue deposit because Isabel's card was acting up. I was building their dream, brick by brick, while they handed me the tools and called me a good guy. And then the messages started. First, it was from Aunt Laura. Hey, is it true you're not invited to the ceremony? Then Uncle Luis. Did you say something to Mateo's father? Just curious. And finally, the Facebook post that broke me. A photo of Camila and Mateo, with my parents standing in front of a rustic barn strung with fairy lights. The caption, so proud of our family. Looking forward to the big day with all the right people by our side. The right people. They didn't even tag me. I scrolled through the comments. A friend of Camila's wrote, will Alejandro be there? He was always so funny. And Camila replied, we want something intimate. Just people we trust. Just people we trust. I didn't sleep that night. I reviewed every receipt, every email, every time I was called selfish for asking for what I lent back. And I realized something. I was the only one in that family who gave without expecting anything in return, and the only one who was never given anything. A week later, I got a group message. Hey family, can we all chip in for Camila's bachelorette party decorations? Alejandro, since you're so good with websites, can you make a page for RSVPs? Hugs and kisses. I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, Camila messaged me directly. Can you just do this without being so passive-aggressive? So I did something else. I logged into the wedding venue's account and requested a refund of the €2,500 deposit. Technically, it wasn't refundable, but I had taken out wedding insurance on the booking, just in case. A little checkbox no one noticed. I got 90% back after filing a claim for family conflict. Then I went onto Canva and deleted every design I'd created. RSVP confirmations, table assignments, welcome signs. Everything. I created a single new file and titled it Let Mateo's Father Figure This Out and shared it with the entire family. That's when everything exploded. 3 hours later, Isabel called me, hysterical. What are you doing? Do you know how this looks? I said I do. That's why I'm doing it. Then Fernando called. He went straight to yelling. You've always been jealous of Camila. That's what this is about, isn't it? Can't stand that she has a better life than you. I held the phone away from my ear and hung up. That night, my phone blew up with notifications. Camila posted a cryptic Instagram story. Betrayal always comes from those closest to you. Then Isabel uploaded a picture of Camila crying, with the caption, There's nothing that hurts more than your own brother trying to ruin your special day. People started messaging me. Friends. Relatives. Some sent, are you okay? Texts. But most didn't even ask. They just said, why did you ruin her wedding? I didn't reply to any of them. And then the package arrived. A yellow envelope with no return address. Inside, a printed screenshot. An internal conversation from Camila's bridesmaids WhatsApp group. Her, laughing, will make Alejandro pay for the cake too. Just gotta guilt trip him about being the only brother. Always works. Another message. To Mateo, he doesn't even like you. Says Alejandro gives him the creeps LOL. And one more. Her again. He won't be at the wedding. I'll make sure of that. You'll see. There was a sticky note on top, in a handwriting I recognized. You deserve better. Kay. I didn't know who Kay was, but I would find out. And when I did, everything changed. Because Kay didn't just have screenshots. Kay had audio. And the second I heard it, I knew exactly what I was going to do. At the wedding rehearsal dinner. The dinner was held at a pretentious vineyard 30 minutes outside of Madrid. They called it rustic luxury. I called it a marketing scam with overpriced wine and fairy lights stapled to trees. But I showed up, impeccably dressed, calm, focused. Because I wasn't there to eat. I was there to bury the circus. I walked in just as they were making a toast. Camila was laughing. Mateo had his arm around her. Fernando looked uncomfortable. Isabel avoided my gaze. They didn't expect me to be there. That much was clear. I was supposed to be the villain in their script, the resentful brother who ruined everything and couldn't let go of the past. But I wasn't resentful. I was done. I walked straight to the front of the room. "Excuse me," I said, gently tapping a glass. Conversations froze. Someone laughed nervously. Camila frowned. I pulled a small speaker from my inside jacket pocket and placed it on the table. Then I held up a flash drive. Mateo stood up. "What are you doing?" I stared him down. "Giving you exactly what you deserve." I pressed play. Speaker with 3 sound waves. A girl's voice. Camila, laughing. "We'll make Alejandro pay for the cake too. Just gotta guilt trip him about being the only brother. Always works." The silence shattered like glass. Mouths dropped open. Someone gasped. A fork clattered onto a plate. I didn't flinch. Another voice. Another message. To Mateo, "He doesn't even like you. Says Alejandro gives him the creeps, lol." Mateo went white. Camila lunged for the speaker. I stepped in front of her. "Sit down." It wasn't a suggestion. And then came the last clip. Camila again, her voice low and arrogant. "He won't be at the wedding. I'll make sure of that. You'll see." I paused the audio. I looked around the room. "Any questions?" I asked. Mateo opened his mouth, then closed it again. Fernando stood up, furious. "You think this is appropriate? You think this? Sit down." I cut him off. And, for the first time in my life, he did. I turned to Camila. "I've spent over 11,000 euros on this wedding. I designed your website, negotiated your venue, and paid your florist. I did it because I naively thought this was a family." Camila was trembling. Mascara ran down one cheek. "You don't understand," she stammered. "No," I said. "You don't understand. You never did. You didn't want a brother. You wanted a wallet." Then I pulled out the folder. Printed copies. Screenshots. All the messages. Hers. Isabel's. Fernando's. The PayPal receipts. The bills I paid. The ones I kept when they forgot. The group chat where Camila called me the family's free wedding planner. I handed them to Mateo. "Still want to marry her?" I asked. He stared at the pages, not answering. Then someone stood up from the back. A woman in a gray coat. She had a lanyard around her neck and a phone in her hand. "Hello, everyone." "Excuse the interruption," she said. "I'm Christina. Alejandro and I worked together years ago. I also run a digital forensics agency. Alejandro asked me to verify some files." She glanced at Camila and confirmed they weren't digitally falsified. She held up her phone. "This audio is 100% authentic. No cuts. No edits. Pulled from a WhatsApp backup linked to your old number. And don't worry, I also have the metadata." Camila's mouth went slack. Isabel gasped. "This is a joke." Fernando barked. Christina smiled. Not even close. And then came the twist. Mateo turned to Camila. "You told me Alejandro said those things to you. That he threatened you. That he was unstable. He held up the copies. You lied." She tried to grab his arm. "No, Mateo, don't touch me." Then the room erupted. My aunt stood up screaming. Someone knocked over a glass. My mother tried to say something, but choked on the words. And in the middle of it all, I just stood there, calm, serious, watching it burn. When the chaos reached its peak, I spoke one last time. I'm not coming to the wedding. You already made that decision. But now you'll do it without my money, without my help, and without my silence. I turned to my parents. You cut me out the moment you realized I wouldn't be your puppet anymore. So I'm cutting the strings too. And just as I turned to leave, Matteo spoke. I'm calling it off, he said, his voice firm. What? Camila shrieked, a sharp, high-pitched wail like shattering glass. You can't do this. Here. Oh, he already has, I replied. And I left. No dramatic music. No slow motion. Just the sound of everything they built crumbling behind me. I didn't go straight home after the rehearsal dinner. I didn't even take the highway. Instead, I took a back road north. Silence. No signal. A month earlier, I'd signed a lease on a small house in a forgotten part of Galicia. Population, 600. One restaurant. One gas station. No one there cared who I was. And that's exactly why I chose it. I paid 6 months in advance. No forwarding address. No digital footprints. Just silence. The first 3 days, I didn't turn on my phone. I didn't check emails. I didn't talk to anyone. I sat on the porch with a thermos of black coffee and listened to birds fight over territories they'd never truly own. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. No more tension in my neck. No more guilt. No one asking me for money. No one pretending to care just to get a transfer. On the 4th day, I went into town and enrolled in something I'd previously been ashamed to pursue, an archival conservation course at the local university. History, dusty newspapers, forgotten letters. I was finally surrounded by things that recorded truth without embellishment. No spectacle. No manipulation. No UOS. I volunteered at the regional museum, helped catalog photographs from the 1950s, repaired an old microfilm machine. And for the first time, I didn't care if anyone noticed. Because it was mine. Quietly mine. The messages started a week later. To my old Gmail account, linked to my emergency phone. I didn't open the first few, but the subject lines said enough. We can talk. You went too far. We're still family. Then came the calls with blocked numbers. Dozens. I left the phone off. They weren't looking for peace. They wanted to restart the game. What scared them wasn't the evidence. It was the silence. They couldn't stand not knowing what I would do next. Because for the first time in their lives, they didn't have control. 3 weeks later, a court notification arrived at my old apartment. Apparently, Fernando had tried to sell a portion of the family property. What he didn't know was that I had blocked that deed 2 years earlier, after he accidentally tried to remortgage it without my consent. I left it in legal limbo, waiting. He triggered the clause without realizing it. Result: the deal fell apart, the buyer backed out, and he was investigated for fraud. Not because I caused it, but because I didn't stop it. I didn't publish any blog posts. I didn't make a dramatic display. I didn't send screenshots to the family group chat. I simply disappeared. No birthday calls. No financial rescues. No, maybe next times. And that was what really destroyed them. Because narcissists don't fear consequences. They fear irrelevance. They fear a stage without an audience. One morning, I went to the post office. Not for letters. Just for a small package I'd ordered. Behind me in line, someone was talking on the phone. They said something like, I heard Camila's fiancé left before the wedding even happened. And then, apparently, her brother disappeared. Took all his money. I didn't turn around. I never made a statement. I never clarified anything. I simply became unreachable. No address. No number. No access. They thought silence meant weakness. They didn't understand it was a choice. A form of surgical, silent goodbye. Not with words, but with absence. An absence that can't be manipulated. The kind of absence that forces people to sit with the weight of what they've done. They can't use guilt on me anymore. They can't call when the rent's due or the card's maxed out. They can't pretend everything's okay just because they need another favor. Because there's no us anymore. Just them. And a mailbox that says, no messages received. You know what's funny? When you finally walk away from the people who built their lives on top of you, they don't immediately collapse. They just stand there, stunned, like someone's turned off the sound and they can't find the volume button. That's what happened after everything burned. After the rehearsal, after the calls, after the silence. They still believed, deep down, that I would come back. Because I always had. But this time, I didn't. I changed my number. Not just a new SIM card. New carrier. New area code. No forwarding. No auto-reply. Just nothing. I closed the joint account Fernando had linked me to for emergencies. Redirected my bank statements to a private digital vault. Updated my medical will. Removed all family names. Even changed the emergency contact in my driver's license from Isabel to none. They don't know where I live. They don't know where I work. They don't know if I'm still in the province, the country, or even if I'm alive. And it consumes them. A month ago, I went back. Just once. Not to the house. Not to the vineyard. I drove past the wedding venue. The one I canceled. It was empty. Abandoned. A crooked for lease sign hung on the main gate. A withered bouquet lay crushed on the gravel. It felt right. I rolled down the window. The breeze smelled like rain and regret. Before I left, I did one thing. I walked over to the mailbox by the entrance. Slipped a small envelope inside. No return address. Inside, a printed copy of the last bill I paid for the wedding. And a sticky note stuck on top. It said, "Thanks for nothing." I don't check the old email anymore. But every now and then, I log in, just to see the avalanche. One unread message had the subject line, "Please, just talk to us." I didn't open it. Another said, "We don't even know who you are anymore." That one made me smile. Because they're finally right. I'm not the person who paid their bills at 3 a.m. anymore. I'm not the emergency contact. I'm not the wedding planner, the free therapist, the invisible brother, or the guilt-ridden son. I'm just a man with a different life. A life they can't reach, can't taint, can't rewrite. Last week, I installed a new mailbox. Metal. Clean. With a lock. One of those secure mailboxes that doesn't let anything out once it's in. The technician asked what name I wanted engraved on the plate. I said no name. Just a message. So now on a small brass plate, right below the lock, it reads, "This mailbox does not accept apologies." And the silence I hear every day isn't loneliness. It's peace.